He rose from the gritty streets of Detroit to become one of the most powerful men in America. His name was Jimmy Hoffa, the iron-willed, foul-mouthed president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, with over 2 million truckers under his command. Hoffa controlled America's supply lines and, by extension, part of its economy. But he wasn't just a labor leader. He was a man with dangerous friends. He forged close relationships with Mafia bosses, alliances built on favors, bribes, and blood. And it was those ties that would ultimately seal his fate. By the 1970s, Hoffa's enemies were everywhere in Washington, in the mob, and even within his own union. It was a hot Wednesday afternoon in suburban Detroit. Jimmy Hoffa told his family he was going to meet two men for lunch, Mafia leaders Tony Provenzano and Anthony Giacalone, at the Match's Red Fox restaurant in Bloomfield Township. At 2:15 p.m., Hoffa called his wife from a payphone outside the restaurant. He was angry. They were late. That would be the last time anyone ever heard from Jimmy Hoffa. His car was found unlocked, keys in the ignition. But Hoffa, the most watched, most feared man in organized labor, had vanished into thin air. In the hours that followed, the FBI launched a massive investigation, but there were no leads, no surveillance, no witnesses. And just like that, Jimmy Hoffa was gone. To understand Hoffa's disappearance, you have to understand who he was dealing with. Tony Provenzano was a feared capo in the Genovese crime family. Tony Giacalone, a Detroit mob enforcer. Russell Bufalino, the silent boss, was pulling strings from Pennsylvania. These weren't just casual acquaintances. Hoffa had used mob muscle to win union elections, and in return, he gave them access to Teamster pension funds, as well as hundreds of millions in low-interest loans to build casinos, hotels, and real estate empires. However, when Hoffa was released from prison in 1971, he sought to regain control of the union, and he wanted total control. The mob wasn't interested in giving up what they'd already taken. He threatened to expose corruption. He promised to clean house. That scared many influential people who had killed for less. Over the next 4 decades, Hoffa's name would haunt the FBI. Every tip, every whisper, every claimed sighting led to a new dig site and a new disappointment, from a garbage dump in New Jersey to a horse farm in Bloomfield Hills. One former hitman said Hoffa was ground up in a meat processing plant. Another claimed he was buried under Giant Stadium. In 2004, the FBI dug up a backyard in Milwaukee. In 2013, they searched under a suburban Detroit driveway. In 2022, they even used ground-penetrating radar beneath a landfill in New Jersey. We found no human remains. Currently, we are not pursuing further excavation. Each time, the search ended the same way with nothing. Jimmy Hoffa didn't just make enemies in the underworld. He made them at the highest levels of the US government, especially Robert F. Kennedy. Kennedy spent years trying to take down Hoffa. When RFK became Attorney General under his brother JFK, Hoffa became his obsession, being watched, investigated, and prosecuted. In 1964, Hoffa was finally convicted and sentenced to 13 years. But even from prison, he continued to pull strings. And when President Nixon commuted his sentence in 1971, Hoffa tried to reclaim his throne, against strong warnings not to. Nixon's pardon included a secret agreement. Hoffa would not seek union leadership again. But he ignored it. Some believe the government let him walk into a trap or even facilitated it. Was it a mob hit? A union betrayal? Or did influential people in DC decide Hoffa was too dangerous to live? In April 2024, nearly 49 years after Hoffa vanished, the FBI received a new anonymous letter claiming his body was buried beneath a vacant factory outside Pontiac, Michigan. Using cadaver dogs and ground-penetrating radar, they launched yet another search. Forensic teams recovered bone fragments and a broken watch similar to the one Hoffa was last seen wearing. We're still analyzing the remains. Early results indicate that they belong to a male, Caucasian, between 55 and 65 years old, which matches Hoffa's profile, but we can't confirm identity without DNA. As of today, the FBI has not confirmed whether these remains belong to Hoffa, but for the first time in decades, investigators believe they may be closer than ever to solving the mystery. He was a hero to some, a criminal to others, a man who fought for workers and made deals with devils. Jimmy Hoffa built a legacy of power and left behind one of the greatest unsolved disappearances in American history. Where is he? Who killed him? And will we ever truly know what happened that summer afternoon in 1975? This case remains open.